Hello and welcome back to the Armchair Politicast. I am John Dinsdale. I am joined as ever by Carl Varley.
Hello there, everybody.
And today we're doing something a little bit different. We've been gone for a few weeks, mainly because I ended up going on holiday and schedules became schedules and they're messy. So we're going to do something a bit different. This one's going to be a bit more free form, but
Yeah, it's gonna be a
it
bit crazy.
with as of recording, it is the 18th of July. Tomorrow will be the UK's Freedom Day. I say that in quotation marks.
Yeehaw! Gotta love that freedom.
Yeah, our 4th of July comes 15 days later. But
Yeah.
basically, the UK plans on lifting all of its or most of its coronavirus restrictions now. So no more mandatory masks, no more mandatory social distancing, no limits on groups, nightclubs are reopening, all that. It's sort of the UK is throwing off the shackles of coronavirus,
Mm.
but
Though I do believe that a lot of companies are going to still be encouraging masks
oh yeah, it might
because
not be mandatory
even though we're
anymore.
having this Freedom Day, it's not as if we're out the pandemic. The pandemic's actually getting worse because of the new variants. Though
Yes, this is the oxymoron of it all
yeah.
because we're having a Freedom Day in the middle of what could potentially be a fourth wave. It's
Bojo needs that win.
but
I mean,
we're
he's a
getting
man of
ahead
his
of
word. He wouldn't just lie to us about tomorrow
yes,
being Freedom Day.
we're getting ahead of ourselves a bit. We decided because of what a significant, again, quotation marks, event this is going to be, we'd sort of have a bit of an overview of how the pandemic's been and is going to continue being, because as we said, it's not over.
I mean, it'll never really be over. It's always going to be
Uh,
with us. But, it'll become like smallpox or measles. It'll basically vanish until some idiots in America decide that they don't want to get vaccinated for it anymore. And then it'll pop up again.
Indeed. So obviously we're all vaguely aware of how coronavirus came into the public eye. It wasn't it was known about months.
Or are we? It's an ever changing tale. Who
It is,
knows
but
with China?
yeah, basically that's where the virus is thought to have originated from, unless you like to believe in biological weapons theories, in which case, have at it, you
Well,
lunatic.
I mean, the lab leak theory is gaining more credence day by day.
Oh,
And it can't be easily dismissed because it's a quite likely source.
oh no, there are different variants of the lab
Oh
leak
yeah,
conspiracy. Like
yeah, there's one where they willingly unleashed it on the world.
like that one's far-fetched, it being some
Yeah,
sort of accidental, like, or at least sure I can
I think it's quite likely, honestly.
yeah, it's plausible. But yes,
Yeah,
basically virus starts in China in the Wuhan district.
mm.
China knows about it but doesn't do anything until it starts spreading on a
Until it's
global
too
level.
late. I think
And
the earliest report case was in early November 2019.
which
I
gave them
think
about 2 months to
yeah, first
like,
one they reported in China was in December. The rest of the world didn't really find out till January.
and even then we
And
didn't really do anything about it at the
yeah,
time because it seemed to
who
be
didn't declare a global pandemic until the end of January, by which time it was too late because it had already spread around the world. I think it was in December, it already spread, maybe even as early as November, it was already in other countries. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
so obviously China mandatory lockdowns, people forced into their homes, rapid hospital building. They get it mostly under control, even though they've let it fester for
Emphasis on the forced means people literally being locked into their homes against their will.
Oh yeah, it was interesting seeing journalists in the area because they were obviously still reporting, but they could only do it from their homes.
Yeah.
There was plenty of like BBC interviews and things like that with people in the region because at the time that was the only place we really had any idea of what it was doing and what it was capable of.
You've got to hand it to dictatorships. They can do lockdowns very efficiently.
Yeah, but
Just don't give their citizens any choice in it.
so obviously end of January. Oh yes, this thing's a bit dangerous. We should probably be careful of it, but life still mostly goes on as normal. It's not until March when like the numbers start rising, infections start rising, deaths start rising, that we start to think, oh, maybe we should be doing something about this. And
Yeah, jeez.
well, in the UK, we have the furlough scheme announced, and companies can start sort of putting their employees on paid leave that they can get as a tax break. And yeah, it works for a time, but again, we got too impatient.
Quote unquote works.
I
I mean, we were still, at the time, the worst country in Europe for the amount of excess deaths that we were having.
it's because we didn't implement any sort of scheme until
Really,
like 2 months too late.
the other countries got it before us. Italy, Spain, France, they had it before us. They had it worse. They managed to do better somehow.
Like this is it in the grand scheme of things. The UK is one of the worst countries for coronavirus deaths. It's only recently been overtaken to such a degree purely because of the Delta variant in India,
Jeez.
which basically allowed India to overtake us. America, I think, does America still have the top
America
death?
probably has the most deaths because of
I'm not sure if
their
Brazil
population.
overtook it.
I think I've got this article here from 5th of July, so pretty recently. Let me see what it was. America had 605,000 plus deaths. Brazil was 524 plus thousand. India 402 plus thousand. Then Mexico 233 plus. And Peru with 193 plus. It's like top five.
So we're not in the top five anymore somehow.
No,
But I think we still did the worst in Europe.
probably. God, I mean, it's been a mess how we've handled things. Just lockdowns randomly here and there, just spotty all over the country. Sometimes it's the whole country. And you got to think the UK population doesn't really like to listen to government when they suggest these things because they're very selfish and self-centered. So, how many people actually paid attention?
Hmm. Well, this is the thing though, with our lockdowns, it didn't last particularly long. It was what, 2 months, 3 months? I think it ran from like
Relatively
April
short.
through to September, and then it was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna try reopening. We're gonna limit what we do, eat out to help out, things like that.
Yeah, because that's
And we got a
truly
second
helping,
spike.
people spreading out into the community.
Yeah, it really didn't help anything in the
Jeez,
slightest.
what a stupid idea.
It's like I understand wanting to help businesses, but all we really
And
ended
there's
up doing was
ways that
helping the
don't involve
virus.
putting people's lives at risk.
So of course, UK goes back into lockdown, and we start getting anti-lockdown protests featuring famous conspiracy theorists and
No.
old age Nazi groups, and
No. But they're usually so reasonable. They care so much about other people's well-being, especially Nazis. God.
So to be fair, the UK government still handled it better than the US government.
Well, yeah. I mean, the US didn't handle it. That's why they've got the most deaths.
Like we can sort of talk and laugh about how terrible the UK did. The US had a president who refused to do anything for it for, well, until he was booted out of the office.
I've heard maybe if we try shine UV rays into the bloodstream, maybe that'll cure it.
Or just injecting bleach.
Yeah, why not?
Oh,
God, the UV rays that getting shined into people. That was the craziest one for me.
I don't know. There was things with hot peppers. There was
Disinfectant,
bloody
hydroxychloroquine. Obviously, was a fun one.
like the
A lot of people
supposed.
promoting, was it colloidal silver at one point?
Yeah, there was just so many scams and it got so bad the World Health Organization had to make a Mythbusters page that had about
Yeah.
40 odd entries. And so many of them are conspiracy theory bullshit. It's
Oh, who was it that tried to pray it away?
oh god, that famous televangelist.
Kenneth Copeland.
That's it, yeah. Breathe
Blow
on,
the coronavirus away.
I'm breathing on your TV. I've blown away the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Whilst in fact I've probably just infected my
Blow the
camera.
wind of God.
What was such a big problem was like, especially in America, because churches wouldn't close, congregations wouldn't stop, and it's just,
What?
well, sorry, no, I take
Religious
that
nut
back.
jobs. It's just gonna ignore the
Unreasonable,
government and people's well-being.
unreasonable congregations wouldn't stop, but yeah, they turned into super spreader events. You had churches still demanding tithes when people couldn't pay their rent. It was interesting.
Oh, also, they're meant to spread the good word of Jeebus. If they don't have all your money for themselves.
Plant that seed. No.
No, not the Catholic Church here. Jeez. No, hell's meant to buy like your private jets if you don't have the times. You need the private jet so you can go around the world to spread the word of God to everybody.
To be fair, bloody televangelists deserve their own episode of this show. The world's fucking con artist.
Jeez, yeah. Not even a lot of them are, just actual criminals.
Yeah.
It's weird how that works out. I'm sure there's no correlation.
But yeah, with sort of cases rising, more countries implemented stricter lockdowns, went through second waves, came out, went through third waves, came out again, and here we are, kind of on the precipice of a freedom day. But the thing with the pandemic is it doesn't exactly go away, and vaccine hesitancy alongside a more infectious new variant just hasn't helped in the slightest. Countries that had little to no cases are now starting to have massive upticks again because people aren't getting vaccinated.
Because they're idiots.
It's like Australia's currently back on lockdown despite being one of the first places to sort of stamp it out originally.
Look at them in words. People who were refusing the vaccine, unless they have a legitimate medical reason not to, are just selfish idiots. They either don't understand the vaccine in the slightest, or they don't care about other people's health. It's not just yourself you're protecting when you get vaccinated. It's immunocompromised people who can't get vaccinated and need everybody else to be immune around them.
This is it though. People argue it's freedom of choice. But the thing with freedom of choice is there's also freedom of consequence, and some countries are starting to implement some pretty nasty consequences.
People have the freedom to go to the shops without having to worry about whether or not they're going to die because someone's breathing the same air as they are.
Oh, I 100% agree. I wish everyone that could get vaccinated would, but
your freedom of choice doesn't matter if it's putting other people's lives at risk.
That's why I'm kind of happy to see vaccine passport programs being implemented. For example, France is going to be bringing one in from August, September. And
at some point.
It's
It's pretty sensible and reasonable. I mean, the worst variants come from other countries, usually. So
the interesting thing
wouldn't it make sense to be tracking these things globally?
There's already been protests in France around it.
Well, French love a good protest, don't they?
It's because they've also got a high rate of unvaccinated people. There was a lot of vaccine hesitancy in the country. But
Yeah, because they're a bunch of idiots.
but at this point,
Goddamn
it's
cheese
like
eating surrender monkeys.
now. Let's not name call in a professional production. But yeah,
I
basically the
jest.
vaccine passport would prevent anyone unvaccinated from quite a lot of like daily activities. You've got limited options on trains, limited public passport, can't enter nightclubs, can't do local events. You've got limits on how many people you can meet, all because you didn't
Hmm.
get the vaccine, which,
Which,
sure, if you
led
take
to a
away the
big
content,
uptick in France. They didn't want their freedoms took away because they weren't vaccinated, so a bunch of people decided to actually get vaccinated.
well, this is it. You've
Because, they're selfish.
the sort of
They only
deterrent
cared
method
about it once it
works.
started affecting them.
That's kind of been the attitude of the entire pandemic, though.
Yeah.
Like, even when it was first sort of coming about, a lot of people were like, oh, well, it's over the other side of the world. It's not going to affect me. Or it only affects the old. It's not going to affect me. Or it only.
Yeah, who cares if the kids get it? They'll be fine.
It's like everyone's kind of been guilty of the sort of lax mentality with this sort of virus. But even then, like in the UK, there was massive surges with vaccinations, mainly because we age gated it so that, especially with our age bracket, me and
God,
Carl
it
have
took
both been
so long.
vaccinated now. Well,
Well, had
halfway
our
done.
first dose.
Yeah, we've both had a vaccine.
Yeah.
And we were kept waiting for like, because the vaccines came out in February.
Jeez. It was a while ago now.
Yeah, so it's now
It makes
July.
sense. Get the most vulnerable people first.
Oh, of course. It's just with the sort of age gating system, you've built up this sort of want. Because
Yeah.
obviously, I wanted to get a vaccine as soon as they were ready, but obviously, age
Yeah.
gates are into play. But this
We've
is,
got to only trickle it out a bit at a time. Keep that demand high so they can make as much money as they can.
I guess, there's been all sorts of like mess with vaccines, like between different places producing different things to send them around the world to the Indian vaccination factory having to halt production on worldwide sort of vaccines because India suddenly had the Delta variant, which emerged and crippled them entirely. Yet they were still
Yeah.
holding, which to be
There's
fair can
also
be
us, UK, America, Canada,
vaccine hoarding.
stopping the vaccine patent waivers and hoarding vaccines. To stopping poorer countries getting vaccinated because some poor, incredibly wealthy farmer CEO might miss out on a few £1 million.
Well,
I'm gonna cry.
it's been pretty disappointing across the board because at the G7 it was like, oh, we've got this big news around like vaccines and stuff, and then it turns out they're only pledging about an 11th of what's actually needed.
God,
It's
if only there was some way for these countries to make vaccines in their own factories in their own countries. God, wouldn't that be great?
the annoying thing is though, the vaccine game has kind of been turned into like a political power move because obviously Russia made one, which they freely distributed. China made one, which they freely distributed, and it was only once they
Mm.
started doing that that America was sort of like, oh shit, we need to do something. We're getting
Yeah.
overtaken by China and Russia again, and we can't
See,
allow that.
getting all that political influence in Africa and the Middle East.
Like, this is it. It's never been about trying to heal the world or cure the world or keep things going. It's just political game.
That neo-colonialism.
It's so disappointing. Like, there are no such thing as true humanitarian efforts anymore.
I mean, there is, just not done by governments. because they care more about money than anything else.
It's like I'm pretty sure America's trying to cut its like aid budgets at the moment. The UK was toying with the idea of cutting its aid budgets, and it's like,
I mean, I think they did. There was a vote recently on whether or not we would be cutting the foreign aid budget. The Tories won that vote. I think it's going to the High Court. Is it be challenged?
it seems like such a dumb time to do that, though. Like,
Oh, it
hey,
is. It's the worst time.
you've got places struggling under coronavirus. You've got places struggling under political unrest. You've got places struggling under previous problems that have been exacerbated by a pandemic. Oh, we don't need to help other countries at the moment.
Got places struggling under the world falling to pieces.
It's like Cuba's
quite
tearing
literally
itself.
because of global warming and stuff.
Cuba's tearing itself apart at the moment because life has become borderline unlivable over there under coronavirus and sanctions.
But if only there was a way that they could be helped. Oh, I can't think of anything that would ever help Cuba. Can you?
No, I can't think of it.
No. Surely we can stop the trade embargo that's been in place for decades on a government that no longer really exists. And if they want to get rid of a communist government, surely it would be easy to do that if we weren't, having an embargo on them.
It's the sad thing
They're
is
communist?
they were. I don't know if they still are.
Yeah, they are. I'm pretty sure.
But even then, when they say it's a communist government, it never falls under the red scare
Communist.
that America seems
Yeah.
to think it is.
God, it's a very scary word for Americans. And quite over here now as well. Communist, Marxists, socialists. It's just words that people don't really understand, but they're afraid of.
Oh,
And
you're a
everything
left
that's
winger. You must be a communist.
yeah. God, I love that. Anything even slightly to the left nowadays is communist and Marxist. It's like, do you even understand what you are saying?
The world
How
is
dare
a
you
dumb,
infringe my
dumb
rights to be
place.
racist, homophobic, bigot, you Marxists? It's like, no, that's not how this works.
I warned everyone this was going to be chaos. So yes, oh God. Do you know the funniest? Well, it's not funny. It's just tragically
Oh,
sad. Yesterday, 2 days before Freedom Day, newly appointed Health Secretary Sajid Javid
Health Secretary
tested positive for coronavirus.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a real roller coaster with this as well, because it was just yesterday Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak were saying, no, we're not going to isolate, even though we've been near Sajid. And just earlier today, they're like, actually, yes, because everyone's really angry at us because it seems like we're incredibly corrupt and just making rules for us and rules for you.
That's been a sort of running theme and all, because obviously I said newly appointed health secretary. That's because the old one got fired for getting it on with an A in front of a CCTV camera.
Well,
when the rest of
was it a CCTV camera? That's the thing. That camera shouldn't have been there. And there's been investigations and raids on people's houses to find out how that camera got there.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it was hard for Boris to criticize that because cheating on his partners is, something of a pastime of his. So he can't condemn it because, it's his modus operandi.
There's been a lot of turmoil in the Conservative Party.
Well, you mean that totally innocent party with absolutely no corruption at all?
Something we will further address in the next episodes.
Yeah.
But yes, England's health secretary. the incompetent Matt Hancock was breaking his
Yeah.
own coronavirus like rules and got caught on camera doing so and finally resigned after multiple scandals and the Prime Minister being recorded as calling him hopeless.
Yeah, God. Honestly, but if they were gonna actually resign for breaking the rules, I think most of the cabinet would have to resign. I mean, we definitely have to find a new prime minister.
Yeah.
Though I just think we should find a new prime minister anyway. I don't know how anyone can actually support him. Also, a new speaker of the house. But, this isn't what we're talking about today. It's a whole other thing.
Basically, coronavirus has been a mess, and the fact that the UK government thinks that we are ready enough for Freedom Day is kind of a joke to me because we are bordering on a fourth wave due to, well, mostly unvaccinated people getting the Delta variant and continuing to spread it. And even then, vaccinated people can still get the virus because it's not 100% immunity. It's it's a terrible time to reopen because cases are still spiking.
Yeah, I'm looking at a chart here. It was in February, late February, that we dipped below 10,000 new cases a day. We're currently at about 51,000 new cases a day. That was on the 16th.
Well, just like
So,
in our region,
possibly not the best time.
in our region alone at the moment, I think it's on a weekly basis. The BBC sort of
Yeah.
talks them up. It's like on a 7 day gap.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
are
God. It's
in
always getting worse.
yeah, in our small area alone, we are over like 600 cases sort of appearing, and it's only growing as I keep track.
Yeah. Just absolute idiots. But if not now, then when?
It's like, don't get me
Maybe,
wrong,
when we've got it back under control.
scientists like a lot of scientists have been in agreement that there's no good time to do this. There's no perfect time to do this, but I still imagine there is a better time than now.
Definitely. There's definitely a better time than now. But, he wants his big moment. He has to have his big thing. He's delivering freedom to us, is all Boris. Though sadly, we're not going to get the Churchill-style speech he had planned. Truly heartbreaking. Because, when I think Boris Johnson, the first other person I think of is Winston Churchill. They're just so similar.
Uh, uh, as you can see, we're both pretty against the sort of idea.
Shocker.
The thing, it's like I get where they're coming from. Like we want to get businesses going again. We want to get the economy going again. We want to take advantage of the summer. We want to sort of boost the country's morale. And yes, all of those are good reasons to kind of open up but not fully. It's
Well, you could have actually done all this at the beginning of a pandemic, like other countries. Singapore, New Zealand, they did pretty good. New Zealand, yeah, on the same article I was talking about earlier, less than 2,800 cases overall, 26 deaths, because they locked down super quick and gave their entire population money so they could survive without having to work. And shocker, they did amazing. And like a
Australia
lot of
was
people
showing
will bring up that, New Zealand has a very spread out population. There's a lot of people who live right out in the boonies, which is complete bullshit. because New Zealand has highly metropolitan areas with a very high population density.
It's like you can have the best response in the world, it can still come back.
Yeah,
That's what second and third waves have been about.
yeah, jeez.
And the
And
worst thing that's going to
reading the
happen
article,
here.
there's a pretty good, fun one I saw here. Mauritius, tiny little island, so obviously it's got the best for like low amount of cases and deaths.
Mm.
But at the beginning of the pandemic, Mauritians were only allowed to shop twice a week in alphabetical order of surnames, with one person per household allowed to shop for 30 minutes. So, like, because they had such a low population, they could just be super strict on what people were doing.
Indeed. And then you see what happens when just utter lawlessness and ignorance takes over. Look at Brazil. Their president didn't believe it was a threat, still doesn't believe it's a threat, is continuously fumbling access to vaccines. Their death rate is still going up. Their infection rate is still going up. They've never come out of like a massive wave.
I think I'm gonna have to take back what I said about small population. It's bigger than I thought it was. Got a population of 1.2 million, so there's more people living there than I thought. It's like New Zealand, who did great. They have like 5 million ish. So yeah,
No matter how perfectly you prepare, it can always come back, and opening up fully right now as things are getting worse is just not the smart idea.
yeah,
Because we'll open up, people will start acting like nothing ever happened. It's like, I don't have to wear a mask anymore, yay. Unless you go into
yeah.
specific businesses that are still enforcing, well, asking. I doubt they can really enforce it.
Another big one that we need to be wary of is proper border control, because that's how we got in the mess with the Delta variant anyway. We didn't lock down travel to India quick enough, and so it got brought over. Like, we
I,
knew it was a variant of concern. Did we do anything? No.
we're completely forgetting one of the sort of biggest ghosts in the room at the moment.
Yeah.
Japan. We didn't even mention
Oh,
Japan,
jeez. Yeah.
which is a special case because normally when it comes to sort of like viruses and diseases and things like that, Japan's pretty good with it. They already
We haven't been very good.
they usually implement like pretty strict masking rules anyway because it's a social courtesy.
Yeah.
But with coronavirus, it's been trickier for them because they already had like an aging population
Hmm.
and they're very, very, very strict on drugs. So their vaccine rollout has been incredibly slow
Yeah, and
because
also there's the close proximity to China. There's a lot of travel between the countries in the early days. So I'm looking here, total cases just under 840K, just under 15K deaths. So that's quite a lot.
and they're hosting the Olympics in less than 2 weeks' time with no one.
God, yeah, and there's
And
that athlete that's gone missing with COVID, and got the police and everyone trying to find them.
like there's so like that.
What
Japan's
can they
been
do
hit with
about it? The IOC won't let them cancel it.
yeah, they've been
Uh,
struck with two viruses to be honest, because the Olympics has
yeah,
been draining money from them since last year.
yeah,
It,
I'm pretty sure whoever cancels it, either the International Olympic Committee or Japan, if one of those decides to cancel it, they have to pay a fine. So it's kind of a Mexican standoff.
yeah. What's going to cost more, hosting
Who's
the
gonna blink
Olympics or
first? Yeah,
canceling the Olympics? It's all such a mess.
yeah,
Like when I went into this, I was thinking, oh yeah, we can just talk about the timeline, sort of where it appeared, how it was handled, where we are now. But it's been just as all over the place as every like most responses to the virus have been. It's
and the timeline constantly changes because we constantly find out new things about the origins of it and where it traveled first and everything. It's just crazy. Like, no countries are being honest about it.
So we haven't even heard any figures from like African countries or Middle Eastern countries because we're too busy with what else is going on over there.
Yeah. Gee, like, hopefully some of them will be super fine because, they don't really have much contact with the outside world in the same way. Like, let's for hope. Like, especially Central African countries, they are kind of isolated by their environment.
True, I suppose. I can't really think of a proper closer for this.
How about this for a closer? Everything sucks. COVID sucks. Most countries' responses to it sucks. Hopefully things will get better. Eventually it will. Everybody, don't be dumb. Get vaccinated. And we'll see you later.
Screw it, we're going with that.
As good as any.